ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between. It is DebateSensei NPDA edition, where we talk about things relevant to college-level competitive debate for the National Parliamentary Debate Association. I have with me a coach from San Diego State University, Gabe Gravel. Thank you, Gabe, for being here.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. All right, so I want to warn you. This is the last time you're going to be seeing me with this big old mop of hair. I'm gonna donate all of it to Wix for Kids, and I am doing a charity event for something called St. Baldrick's. St. Baldrick's, you actually get donations to shave your head. So I'm going all the way down. Yeah.
Wow, nice.
I'll put the link for like donations in there and everything like that. This is going to get posted up afterwards. I'm shaving on November 20th, but this is going to be posted well after November 20th. So yeah,
it's exciting.
Yeah. I've never had long hair like this. You know what I mean? So the last like 2-3 years, I've been growing it out like this, and so it's the first time I've ever been able to donate my hair, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a good cause.
All right. Okay, so we are talking a tournament recap for 2 tournaments. There's 2 tournaments that were fairly relevant. It was a couple weeks ago, though, on November 4th and 5th. Is that right?
Yeah. Or sorry,
Am I breaking up?
It was the last week of October. No, it was 4th and 5th. You're wrong. There was supposed to be a tournament last week of October. You're right. It was the 4th and the 5th.
Right. Okay, cool. So if you have 2 tournaments that are worth like following, do you think that there is a benefit to that, or do you think that the pool kind of gets split?
I think the pool kind of gets split. I think that honestly, it was kind of unexpected. Maybe not so unexpected the way that it's split, but I do think the pool gets split. I think that what we saw at this tournament was we had the Crossman down in El Camino College, and we had the Paul Winters Invitational up at University of the Pacific. And kind of along the lines of those institutions, the Crossman being hosted by El Camino College, which is a community college, and then University of the Pacific being a 4-year. We did kind of notice more 4-years go up to Paul Winter. Well, there was a lot more community college teams generally in the Crossman, so it did kind of end up splitting that way. I don't believe that there would have been much carryover for the teams that went to the Crossman to have gone to Paul Winters.
Right.
As in the community colleges, I don't think were likely to travel up to NorCal for that tournament. It was really local for a lot of them. I'm not sure that Utah would have gone up, and I'm not sure that San Diego State would have gone up. However, if there was no Paul Winters, I do think we probably would have seen a couple more teams at the Crossman, because those teams are already traveling from out of state. They were already looking to compete that weekend.
I'm counting up. It looks like so. Let's I don't know. Let's start local, and then we'll go to UOP. All right. Let's start with the Crossman. Now, this is my alma mater. I'm an El Camino alum, and I was taught by Mark Crossman. He was my coach, and it was just like he taught me a lot, but also Francesca Bishop. Those were the main 2 for me. And so I'm glad to see like this sort of legacy being built. It kind of like that whole legacy it felt like it started with me, but I don't have the greatest perspective. I know Francesca, she definitely was starting it, but as far as parliamentary debate, she was policy debate, but as far as parliamentary debate, back in 98, 99, where we were starting to kind of find our footing there, and now it seemed to have grown into this just dynasty of debate.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Looking at the wall of all the years of El Camino debaters that they have up in the tab room, It's a really good program. It's a program that really cares about NPDA, which there are other programs that obviously compete in NPDA in the region, but Brittany Hubble at El Camino is very much someone who I know really likes NPDA, competed in NPDA, was the president of the NPDA association for a while, a couple years, I believe. So they're a really important team, I think, on the circuit.
Okay. Looks like both tournaments had, what was it, like 16 open teams?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, both had 16 open teams. There were 14 novice at the Crossman. The reason there were, I guess, so many open teams, though, is they did collapse the junior division into the open division.
Oh, did they? Okay. All right. So let's start talking. Let's start talking big breaks, and it looks like that would go to Utah. They had the most breaks.
Yeah. So there were 3 Utah teams. All 3 of them broke.
Oh wow.
There were both these tournaments broke to a full quarters, which is kind of nice for organization's sake. But Utah broke all 3 of their teams. San Diego State broke their 1 team. El Camino broke 2 of their teams, and Orange Coast College broke 2 of their teams. So pretty diverse break. Utah definitely the standout there. But not necessarily unexpected. Utah is a very good program. It's a historied program for sure in forensics broadly. But kind of more recently coming back to Utah, Utah was always around prior to like when I started debating, but they kind of took a couple seasons off of doing the parlay thing as seriously as everybody else. But it's good to see that they're back, and they have very capable coaches and very capable debaters as well.
Yeah, an old classmate of mine from Long Beach, Michael Middleton, went to University of Utah, and man, I really want to say that he was probably one of the most instrumental in getting their forensics program to what it is. But I do think that he's kind of moved on from there. I haven't really seen him in. He does still do forensic stuff, but I haven't really seen him like at tournaments or talking about it or taking on the director role much anymore. So, all right, that's cool. So, let's talk about these quarters. If El Camino, let's start just alphabetically. El Camino broke 2, but they lost both of them in that first round, huh?
Yeah, so they ended up losing to Utah and San Diego State. Actually, every team on the negative in this quarters round lost.
Oh, really?
And I do think that the 3 Utah teams in San Diego State, they're very good teams. Hopefully,
Yes.
San Diego State's a good team. They've been bugging me too much to be bad. But they obviously having one side of the topic win the entirety of an elim is kind of unusual. And I would say that the topic was a pretty big factor in this round. The topic was to pass the existing legislation that is kind of colloquially known as the assault weapons ban. There's not a whole lot of offensive negative ground on this bill that isn't explicitly critical. And at the Crossman, especially in quarters, you're not likely to get a panel that is super amicable to reading critical positions on the negative. So it was sort of a skewed topic for the AF.
Okay, but so what do you think? Well, I mean, you're saying that the AF seems to kind of be favored, but everyone on the neg won, right?
No, in the quarters round, everybody on the AF won.
Oh, everyone on the AF won. Got it. Oh, okay. I see. I was totally backwards. I'm like, whoa. Like everyone's losing on an assault weapons ban. Holy moly! That seemed, yeah. Okay, so I had that totally backwards. Well, I think I want to pause really quick and say congratulations to San Diego State. It's showing that San Diego State seems to be one of the more recent players in sort of elite NPDA debate, and I think that's you've definitely contributed to that. But tell me a little bit about this team.
It is definitely a pretty new development. The first time that the San Diego State team went to the NPTE was a couple years ago, and I think 2021 with Kyle Pryor Landman and Matt Hitomi. So they just weren't really, they'd been in forensics for a while, but they weren't a program that really cared about being that competitive. So it's really, a program that's done pretty consistently well. The last 2 years, they've made it to at least semifinals at NPDA, which is, big. It's a crowning achievement for a lot of debaters. This team, however, is pretty new. The B in BS is he's a senior, but he has done a couple years of kind of shifting partners, not too many tournaments, but he has been on the team for some time. And then S is a freshman this year who did policy in Texas, who we've been working with him a lot to try to catch him up to Parley speeds and standards, which is much different than policy at the circuit level, as well as just, working with him because he's a freshman. But they've been doing really good, and this is actually their first big break this year, so we were really proud of this result.
Yeah, good, excellent. When I was competing, the only San Diego team was UC San Diego, and the big heavy team, or at least half of it, was Danny Cantrell, the actual creator of ForensicsTournament.net, and so a pretty big name in Southern California forensics these days.
Wow.
Yeah. So I actually competed against Danny. We were contemporaries at the exact same time. Okay, well, unfortunate for El Camino. Let's go down alphabetically. Orange Coast College. All right, OCC broke one, and they hit one of the other Utah teams, and it looks like they dropped on a split decision.
They broke two.
They broke two.
Yeah, they broke HR and GR. Which is, I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, I see. And both of them dropping that one. Oh, okay. So it looks like the community colleges all dropped in quarters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a little unfortunate, but kind of how it goes at the Crossman sometimes. It's a lot of community college teams, but typically a 4-year wins it. Which I don't think is reflective of the quality of debate or instruction at community colleges. I think it's just, if you've been debating 2 years versus 3 years, you have a little more experience.
Right. I mean, like, as you should. I still remember a lot of the lessons I learned in my 3rd and 4th year, right? And thinking about all those lessons I learned way too late in debate, and I get a little embarrassed sometimes thinking about how much I thought I knew when I was a sophomore, but that's why they have a word for that, sophomoric, where you really think that you know more than you really do. It's a great word. That's an SAT word right there. All right. So we got Utah left, and we got San Diego. Wait, who's the 4th team that
So it was 3 Utah, 1 San Diego.
Oh, 3 Utah. Okay. So that means even if they did break brackets, they're hitting each other. So who?
So it was Utah SW, Sam and Kat or Kit.
Okay.
Kit, yeah. Sam and Kit versus SCSU Ryan and Spencer. We had a pretty good panel this round. It had 2 of my old coaches and a 3rd judge who got switched out at the last minute, so we didn't have a whole lot of research. Sorry, not 2 of my old coaches. 1 of my old coaches, 1 of my old debate partners, and then one person who got switched out at the last minute, so we weren't super sure what their paradigm was. But pretty good panel for us. We had hit this team in prelims. We lost to them in prelims, but we felt pretty comfortable that we could beat them if we just, didn't make a couple mistakes. So we felt pretty good going into this round. The topic was a little bit unfortunate.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily AF or neg sided, but it was a fact topic,
Oh,
which I think kind of set us up to be surprised by the negative strategy. The resolution was China presents the greatest threat to United States national security. Um,
okay.
so we prepped our team a pretty straight up fact AF, just different scenarios, economic, cyber, and militarily, ways that China might threaten the United States. But what we didn't prepare for, and I have to give credit to the Utah prep room, was them going critical on this topic. Not that we weren't prepared for a critique in general, we just weren't prepared on how to answer a critique when we weren't defending any sort of policy action. And to
Mm.
Utah's credit, I think they did a pretty good job of framing their links to the rhetoric of the AF instead of any sort of action,
Oh,
which is exactly what you have to do in that sort of situation. So a really good strat call and pretty good execution from Utah that kind of
okay.
just caught us off guard.
Okay.
But a good round
Um,
of applause.
okay. And it looks like it was a panel of El Camino judges. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, Brittany loves NPDA debates, so she does everything in her power to hire all the best NPDA coaches in SoCal.
All right. Okay. So that means, and that's what you said before, that Utah closed out?
Yeah. So that means that Utah essentially closed out. The other side of the semifinal round was technically a walkover, but because it was three Utah teams at the top of the bracket, they just kind of viewed it as a three-team tie for first. Internally on the team, you can kind of decide how that goes. And that's kind of how it's always been in Parlay, with walkovers and deciding who gets first in a closeout. So a really good showing from Utah.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well, congratulations to them, but also a good showing for San Diego. So congratulations.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a look at the Paul
One last
Winters. All
thing.
right. Yeah.
Sorry. One last thing on the Crossman. In novice, El Camino did close out, which I wanted to shout out. It
Oh,
was a double closeout tournament, which is
wow.
great because El Camino, it's a great program. They have a ton of novices, so it's nice to see them start to win some rounds.
Okay. Very nice. Looks like, yeah. All right. Thanks for that. All right. So over to Speechwire for the Paul Winters. Now, Paul Winters is taking place at UOP.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that program there at UOP.
UOP it's a staple in NPDA. They're very consistent. They recruit very well, so they always have debaters to sort of field, which is an underrated aspect of maintaining a successful Parlay program. I would
Mhm.
say that after having a consistent coaching and administrative base that wants to support the team, you actually have to get students who will compete. They do a really good job of recruiting. I almost went to UOP.
Oh,
I ended up picking the cheaper in-state school.
mm.
But they do a very good job getting debaters who are interested in debate generally, and they have a very consistent coaching staff who takes their students to a decent number of tournaments every year. So every time you hit UOP, in recent years they haven't had a super nationally competitive partnership, but certainly multiple years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, they definitely, I'd say 5 years ago, they definitely had extremely competitive programs, and they've had multiple really competitive teams in the past. So they're, just a staple in the Parlay circuit for sure.
Yeah, and I think they got again. My history in this starts coming up. The first time I remember them really entering into tournaments, especially being like nationally competitive, was like my final year. I'm sure they'd went to tournaments before then, but Yeah, I'm saying Long Beach hit them in the semifinal round at NPTE, and it was like, oh my god, I forget their names now, but it was like a freshman or something. Like they're just smart, and they are just freaking smart. So, where's UOP again?
It's in Stockton.
Oh, okay, cool.
Another thing to note about UOP is they're one of the schools that does still kind of have a very like unique debate style to them, which is something that's kind of gone by the wayside. Is like especially with online tournaments where everybody was debating everybody, but they still kind of have like traces of, I would say, private California university debate, which is no conditionality, rarely rejecting the topic, although they do reject the topic more, and really like long topical affirmatives with like very specific advantages, as opposed to like really wide, more shallow affirmatives or disadvantage strategies.
All right. So I'm taking a look at these quarterfinal breaks, and is this right? Rice broke half of the quarterfinal rounds. Like there was a Rice team in every single quarterfinal round.
Yeah, I think this is maybe the third time we've seen this. But yeah, they did break 4 teams, which is pretty ridiculous in a when they brought 5 teams and then it's a 16-team pool. So, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they broke 4 teams. Among the other breaks, Whitman, the 2 Whitman teams that have been extremely successful this year, winning both the Steve Hunt and the Rice tournament, both broke. University of the Pacific broke, which is, I believe, the first break that they've gotten this year,
Okay.
which is great for that program. I don't know much about that team. I think I might have watched them at NPDA last year, maybe half of that team, but I don't have any specific information. But it's great to see more diversity there. And then DVC also broke, Diablo Valley College, which is a community college. And the only community college that broke at this tournament, which is very impressive. And the half of that team is the little sister of San Diego State alum Matt Hitomi. So that's always great to see.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice. So, tell me a little bit about Rice's program. Like, what are they known for?
Rice, in my experience, has been definitely the second. I mean, so when I competed, and still now, Berkeley was by far the most dominant program. Rice, throughout my time debating, was consistently the second best program in the country. And they always fielded teams that were nationally competitive every year. And it felt like every year it was a different team that was nationally competitive. My freshman year, their A team, Jason and Sonia, they made it to, I think it's NPTE finals, which was rather unexpected given how strong a lot of the teams were that year. My sophomore year, they had multiple very competitive teams. Those teams went on my junior year to also, one of them also made it to the finals, and another one did quite well throughout the season, winning at least 3 or 4 tournaments. And then they were also good my senior year. So a very, very consistent program, and they get their debaters to be really good across a lot of different people, which I think is really, really impressive. I've talked to their, I believe he's their director of debate, not their DOF, David Worth, a number of times. And what I think stands out about the Rice program is that they have a large amount of people who want to join the team because they want to debate in the first place. Which I think makes it easier to get a lot of really competitive teams, but it's kind of a unique luxury that I don't hear a lot of other teams talking about. He mentioned that they do tryouts, and they do tryouts because they have to do tryouts because there's so many people who go into Rice with some sort of speech and debate background and just want to join the team that they have to kind of filter that anyway. So, really great team.
Okay. I'm looking at these results, though. It looks like only one of the Rice teams picked up.
Yeah, Rice NS, who again I have to admit I don't know a whole lot about, is the only Rice team that picked up. Other than that, both Whitman teams and the Pacific team were able to win their rounds.
Now I know that you weren't there, so it's hard for you to know what happened in these rounds. Okay, but what were some of the topics? It's hard to get the out rounds, but I think you said you had some.
Yeah, so this tournament used topic area, which is cool. I
Oh,
like topic areas, but it did not. It's not very common anymore.
okay,
For all of the topics in prelims, I don't know if this was true for elims, were about granting sovereignty to different nation states in the world. So,
okay.
for example, the fourth round topic was that the United States should recognize the de jure sovereignty of Somaliland.
Oh,
Uh,
okay,
Similarly, round three was recognizing the de jure sovereignty of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. So they
okay.
had it was all focused on that sort of thing.
That's kind of cool. Like I mean, it seems the way NPDA is going, it's doing like a policy focus for a lot of these places, but still trying to maintain the that element of unpredictability about what the topic is, while still, or like, having a different topic every round, but at the same time
Mhm.
giving people a little bit of predictability, a little bit, like a way to kind of gear up for it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like it. I'm not sure I like this topic area that much because I
Oh, okay.
think that well, I like it. I'm not sure that it's my favorite. Um, I think that the division of AFNEG ground is like really dependent on what sort of thing you're trying or what sort of entity you're trying to give sovereignty to. But I like
Yeah.
that I like that they're doing it. I like how they did it. And I think more tournaments should try it. It'd be fun. And it'd be better than having
Yeah.
fact rounds in our semifinals.
Yeah. Um, so the nation state topic area reminds me of uh, a one round that I had where it was about establishing a Kurdistan,
Hmm.
and we kind of did a somewhat critical affirmative where we were kind of doing a borders critique, like recognizing Kurdistan without borders. Yeah, so it was a borders critique,
Yeah,
applied to.
that sounds like an old school strategy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I mean, I haven't heard the Borders critique since. I mean, I read it my freshman year like two times.
Oh my
It's
God, it was all the rage 20
yeah,
years ago.
yeah,
Oh man. Oh, I'd love to have a deeper discussion about that. It's been so long since I've even thought about the borders critique. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, cool. Yeah, so uh, yeah, I'm wondering if the elim rounds were still running the same sort of topic area. Anyways, here we are, semifinals. Rice, two Whitman teams, UOP, right? That and oh, for once, Whitman doesn't close out.
yeah. I was gonna say it's a very familiar sight seeing two Whitman teams on both sides of the semis bracket.
Yeah.
But this time, Rice is able to prevail and prevent Whitman GM from closing out with Whitman ML, which is honestly very impressive.
Okay.
This Whitman team has been extremely dominant in a way that is kind of frustrating to talk
Yeah.
about, even because they keep just doing the same thing every week. And it's great to see not only this Rice team knock them out, but also a relatively newer Rice team. Right, this isn't
Oh,
the team that we would expect to. If you told me that Rice knocked out Whitman GM and Sems, this isn't the team that I would have guessed would have done it. Nothing against them, but because
right.
there are, multiple other Rice teams that I've seen more of that have competed more, have broken and gotten further at more tournaments. This is really an impressive breakout from Rice NS.
Well, there you go. Good. Like, and now you can start expecting that more. Like, at some point, you have to make that statement if in order to not be considered that underdog anymore. And this might have been it for NS. Very nice. Yeah. Nikki and is it Regia? Do you know?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay. Cool. So on SpeechWire, it doesn't have the result of the final round. Do you know what happened?
I do. Rice NS was able to beat the second Whitman team, and they won the tournament.
Wow.
Really, really impressive. And honestly, extremely unexpected, considering how well Whitman has done. For them to knock out both of these teams, I mean, simply nobody's done it yet. These teams aren't unbeaten, but nobody has beaten both of them in the same tournament, and certainly no one's beaten either of them in an elim yet this year.
Yeah. Any insight on what the split was on the judging?
I don't have the judging split. I will say, though, one of my close friends who's coaching a team there did mention that the panels were pretty unpredictable. I don't want to harp on any of these judges in particular. Obviously, they're all, like very important to being able to run tournaments like this.
Yes.
But I will say that if I was prepping a team, this is a lot of judges that I don't know how they evaluate rounds. I just haven't seen them in the back of a lot of rounds. And some of them are like relatively new graduates or don't travel to a lot of tournaments far from Stockton to judge tournaments. So I would say, while I'm sure they all are good judges, it's hard to know exactly how they come down on K versus framework or topicality.
Right. All right. Well, a couple of important tournaments on the same weekend for NPDA. It looks like some people are at least figuring out Whitman to some degree. Like we've had them running away with everything for a while, and so now to kind of have a few other players in the game, I think is a good thing. I think it's healthy for the association overall.
I would agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Gabe, for this. I look forward to our next episode where we talk about this. But I always love these recaps. It tells so much about the sort of culture of the association within them. So thank you for that background and insight.
Perfect.
All right. Excellent.